Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Claudia Cruz, and I am part of the outreach team that's been working with the City of Santa Barbara and the project team to bring the community information that will be relayed to you today. I will be facilitating the meeting, and so our meeting format for today will consist of a presentation followed by a question and answer session. Questions will be addressed following the presentation, and we'll go ahead and provide you with we'll let you know when the question and answer portion of the meeting will begin, but that will be after the presentation. And so again, before we begin, I'd like to go over some important information. Participants' audio is muted upon joining the meeting. However, audio content of attendees participating in the question and answer session will be heard. Instructions on how to participate in the question and answer session will be provided once we reach that point. And please note that this meeting is being translated simultaneously into Spanish, and audio instructions. I'll go ahead and provide those one more time, just in case we have anyone that needs that information who has arrived, who has just joined us. And so once again, those instructions are, and I'll go ahead and provide those in Spanish. Queremos asegurar su participación. Para escuchar esta reunión en el idioma correcto, por favor diríjanse a la parte inferior de la pantalla y haga clic en el icono del globo con la etiqueta Interpretación. A partir de allí, seleccione inglés o español. Después de seleccionar su idioma preferido, si escucha ambos idiomas al mismo tiempo, haga clic en silenciar el audio original. Si escucha todo con claridad, no es necesario hacer clic en el botón silenciar audio original. Okay, I think we are getting ready to start. And so now I'd like to go ahead and introduce Laura Yanez. She's the Principal Engineer for the City of Santa Barbara Public Works Department. And Laura will go ahead and provide a quick meeting overview and lead today's presentation. Laura?
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. Good afternoon. Like Claudia said, my name is Laura Yanez, Principal Engineer with the Streets Engineering Division of Public Works. And here with me today is Mr. James Faber from our consultant team with TY Len. And I'd like to start by mentioning our agency partners, which include the Santa Barbara Association of Governments, or SBCAG, and Caltrans District 5. The purpose of today's meeting is to provide project background, the scope, some construction timelines, as well as what you can expect during construction. And then there will be an opportunity at the end for questions. I'd like to also mention that there will be a subsequent meeting on November 8th at 5:30 p.m. at the Palm Park Beach House, where we'll be providing the same information. Next slide, please. So like I mentioned, the city staff have been working with SBCAG since March 2016 to deliver the Cabrillo Boulevard and Union Pacific Railroad Bridge project in parallel and coordination with the 101 widening. The Cabrillo UPRR project has been broken up into 3 construction projects, with the upcoming construction of the Roundabout being phase 1. The second phase includes the replacement of the UPRR bridge over Cabrillo Boulevard, a continuation of pedestrian improvements that will be built with phase 1 through the underpass. And then lastly, the third phase will include the removal of Los Patos underpass over the Los Patos off-ramp. You can see in this exhibit phase 1 outlined in blue, which will include the roundabout and the approaching legs of the intersection. And then to the north, it will meet up with phase 2 outlined in green, which will include the remaining pedestrian and cyclist improvements, as well as the replacement of the bridge. Phase 3 will include, like I mentioned earlier, the removal of the Union Pacific underpass, which will be to the right if you continue on Los Patos Way. The roundabout improves safety and traffic flow at the intersection, while phase 2 will proceed with final design. So while we construct the roundabout, we'll be working on the final design of the bridge replacement. The city received a low bid from Granite Construction, who is qualified to perform the work and recently substantially completed the construction of nearby roundabouts at Olive Mill and San Isidro. The project will construct a new multi-use path on the east side of Cabrillo from the roundabout to a point south of the cemetery, install bioretention basins in the parkways, landscape the parkways and the center island, and construct pedestrian and vehicular lighting. The project will provide improved access for bicyclists and pedestrians, as well as address the circulation and queuing impacts on East Cabrillo corridor. Overall, the project will create a safe corridor along East Cabrillo. It'll improve access and connectivity to and from the Beachway, the Andre Clark Bird Refuge, Chase Palm Park, the Santa Barbara Zoo, beaches, and the waterfront, as well as commercial areas along Los Patos Way and Coast Village Road. It'll also reduce traffic congestion and improve mobility by constructing a roundabout at the intersection. Next slide, please. In this exhibit, you can see the existing multi-use path along the Bird Refuge corridor, or the top left, and it continues on the bottom right, which in the existing condition leaves a major gap. Phase 1 and phase 2 of the proposed projects will close that gap. As you can see in red, there'll be a new multi-use path that will connect and close that gap, as well as class 2 bike lanes through the underpass. The proposed improvements will allow for pedestrians and cyclists to safely navigate the intersection. Next slide, please. Here we have a rendering of the proposed intersection. At the top left is the Bird Refuge with the Los Aves Commercial Center at the top right. The Lionhead Fountain is at the bottom right. And lastly, the area of what will formerly be Channel Drive is at the bottom left. This project will formalize crosswalks at the 4 legs of the intersection, install new pedestrian and roadway lighting, as well as drought-tolerant plants. I'll let everyone have a little bit more time with this exhibit. It'll give you an idea of the final configuration as well as the proposed plantings. Next slide, please. For comparison, the size of the Cabrillo roundabout is similar to the Las Positas and Cliff Drive roundabout, as well as the Los Carneros roundabout at Cairel and Goleta. Both being single-lane roundabouts. The proposed project on Cabrillo will have 4 legs, whereas these two have only 3, but the center circle is a similar size. Next slide, please. In this image, you can see the major constraints in the area. With the narrow roadway and the lack of pedestrian facilities through the railroad bridge underpass, our proposed project will greatly improve the facilities through the underpass and make it safer and a better experience for pedestrians and cyclists. Next slide, please. Here you can see the proposed roadway cross-section through the underpass, which will include sidewalks and landscape biofiltration areas, the 2 class 2 bike lanes and travel lanes, which will include a right turn lane to the newly constructed Highway 101 on-ramp, which will be a part of phase 2. Next slide, please. And here's a rendering of the proposed bridge replacement with the features previously described. So as you can see, the wider bridge will accommodate all of the proposed facility improvements, lighting, the multi-use path, class 2 bike lanes, and wider sidewalks. Next slide, please. So the construction contract was awarded to Granite Construction last Tuesday. Like I mentioned earlier, they are very familiar with this type of work and recently completed the Olive Mill and San Isidro roundabouts, as well as they are the primary contractor on the Highway 101 widening. Construction will commence with utility relocations going first, and then followed by the roundabout construction, which will likely be built in quadrants. One lane of travel in each direction will be maintained for Cabrillo and Los Patos through the duration of the project. And construction activities are expected to last 240 working days or 12 months. Working hours are from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. with night work possibly required. Like I mentioned, one lane of travel in each direction will be maintained for most of the construction, as well as pedestrian and cyclist path of travel in order to be able to navigate the intersection through construction. Intermittent interruptions to access can be expected during certain construction activities, such as material deliveries or certain phases of the work. The project manager through construction will be Eric Biddle, and the project email provided at the end of the presentation will be how you can reach him throughout the construction phase. With that, I'd like to pass it back to Ms. Cruz to discuss the process for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So now we're going to go ahead and take a moment to address any questions from the public. We will go ahead and review the way that you can participate in that. So we will call speakers in the order of the request that they're received on our screen. And so we appreciate your patience with this process. And so you can use the raise hand feature that you can see at the bottom of your screen. And you can also do, if you're calling in, you can do *9. You can also use the Q&A feature to type in your questions. I do see a couple of questions there. And I'm going to go ahead and see if anybody would like to go ahead and anybody in the participants has any questions, please raise your hand. And we'll start there first, and then we'll move over to the Q&A written ones. If there are no, I do see a few hands here. So we do have, I'm going to go ahead and call on Rhea Marsh.
Hi, my question is about the surface of Cabrillo Boulevard. I'm told that no work will be done on the surface of that street until the roundabout is completed. And I'm concerned because some of those holes in the roadway are already pretty big. And I understand this project is not expected to be completed until the end of 25 or the beginning of 2026. So what I'm asking is, could the city please at least patch the holes in Cabrillo Boulevard so they aren't so big that they damage our automobiles?
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. Yes, I recently ran through the area and noticed that as well. So yeah, I can definitely get back with our streets team and see what we can do to make the interim while construction is ongoing safer and address some of the potholes that have come up, particularly due to last rainy season. Thank you.
I have another question.
Yeah,
Sure.
We've recently used the bikes in the roundabouts that have just been completed, And it's a little scary. I'm not quite sure how bikes are they're supposed to go the direction of the automobile travel. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
So here at this roundabout, you'll have two options. There will be a multi-use path. So you have the ability to get out of the roadway and ride through the crosswalks or dismount. And then usually for more avid cyclists, they could also choose to take the lane and ride the roundabout. But different from like Olive Mill, this roundabout will have two options.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ms. Marsh. Before we continue, Laura, I do want to let you know that Mr. Bailey is in the meeting. However, we have not been able to promote him over to a panelist, but he is in attendance. So we can always call on him if you need to have him assist with the Q&A session. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Next, I'm going to go ahead and call on Dr. Meller.
Hi, can you hear me? Can anybody hear?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
you're
we
here. Thanks for doing this for us. I'm looking at the rendering of the project that's up now.
Yes.
I love green space. I'm all for green, but something stood out to me that I wonder if someone could address it. These islands in the middle of the crosswalks. To me, seem like they might be a little superfluous and a lot of expense to both create and maintain. And I just question, how much do they really add?
Thank you. So the median islands at each lake actually are part of one of the key features for the safety of the roundabout and ensuring proper speeds. It helps direct traffic. As you can see, each leg has a particular curve to it in order to minimize speed and ensure that cars aren't able to just do a straightaway through the roundabout. And so it's meant to slow down vehicles and allow them to, recognize and acknowledge pedestrians. The proposed material will not be plant material at these particular the most narrow portions of these islands in order for safety. So it will not be something that is like a live plant that will require maintenance. So they will have, I believe, crushed stone or rock.
All right, I guess. Thank you.
Laura, can I add one thing real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things also is with those islands, it provides a refuge for the pedestrians, so that they can't make it all the way across and have to cross the traffic. So this allows them to have a safe, basically a safe place to be able to make sure it's safe to cross.
Are we not going to have? I thought you said there were going to be lights there. Did I misunderstand?
There'll also be lights, yes, on the outer leg or outer side of the roadway. But the refuge islands in particular, they add an area for the pedestrian to cross one lane, stop if there's an approaching vehicle, and then continue through the intersection, like Mr. Faber pointed out. Yeah.
Got it. And when you say lights, you mean flashing lights, not stop signals.
I mean, like our city street lights. Yeah, like, yeah.
Oh. Okay. I guess I would have thought that would have been the safety, but I guess you can't be too safe.
Yeah. So I'm the project manager for the project. Part of it is, after having just finished Olive Mill, it does provide that physical space for people to maintain and be in. And then also, based on the configuration for those splitter islands, it prevents traffic from entering the roundabout in the opposite direction, which is one of the big fears when those things are laid out. If they're not in place, people can just travel against the grain.
Wow.
Thank you. And I'll introduce, that was Mr. Eric Biddle. He will be our project manager through construction. And Mr. Faber is with TY Lin, our design consultant. So thank you both for chiming in.
Thank you very much, Dr. Miller. So our next question, our next raised hand is Seth. Seth, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Hey, thanks for hosting this meeting. My question, I suppose, is regarding phase 2. And I feel like based on earlier renderings, maybe I had seen that Cabrillo was due to shift a little bit more, I guess that's south than this rendering that we're looking at shows. Has that changed? Is the scope of kind of the movement of Cabrillo moderated from earlier design?
You know,
Go ahead, Mr. Faber.
No, the configuration hasn't changed. The cross section that Laura showed and described during the presentation has been consistent. So it may be just a situation where it's not dimensionally correct or whatever the case may be, but no, there is no changes in the lane configurations.
Okay, that's good to know. I guess my question pertaining that kind of undeveloped site is I thought maybe the lion fountain would have to shift ultimately, but it looks like that all stays in place, right?
Yes.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And then final question, the portion of Channel Drive that is that will be addressed in phase 1, is that just surface? Is that just kind of new slurry coat striping? I suppose that's a tie-in with the multi-use path. Is that what's happening there?
There's a slight change in elevation of the roadway, so that's
okay.
part of it as well. That's what dictated the limits of where the improvements began and stopped.
Okay.
But yeah, that will now become the area for the multi-use path.
Okay.
The vehicles will no longer be able to turn. They'll turn right from the leg approaching the roundabout, not Channel Drive, or what is now. It'll continue to the right.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. And I see one more question, one more hand up raised from, it looks like Lori and Davey. And then following this comment, I will go ahead and start reading through the question and answer session. So Lori and Davey.
Hi. Yes, I wanted to go back to the previous questioner's comments about the traffic lights. I wasn't sure what you meant. It doesn't look on the illustration like there are actual traffic lights. And I thought that a roundabout by definition does not have traffic lights. Could you clarify what's going on there?
Yeah, and maybe we can go to the more detailed and zoomed in rendering. No, there will not be a traffic signal per se, which has the indications of red, yellow, green. We will have, as you can see from here, we will have the, and I call them city street lights because it'll be our city standard, but it is the light that's meant to illuminate the pedestrian as they're approaching the intersection and crossing the road.
Okay, so I see. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That's very good.
Thank you. Seth, I do see your hand raised. Did you have a follow-up question? I'm not sure if you just forgot to lower your hand. Okay. Okay, great. Just wanted to check, make sure that we didn't miss you there again. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the question and answers, the questions that have been dropped into the Q&A chat here. And I'm going to just go ahead and perhaps this may have been answered already. Actually, Lori and Davey wanted us to repeat the time frame for this project.
So like I said, we awarded construction this week and we'll be working on executing our contracts and working on a start date with Granite. But we anticipate they'll start ideally sometime in early to mid-December, if not in the new year. And then upon commencement, we expect 12 months of construction. And Claudia, I know we have a couple additional city staff available that need to be promoted to panelists should they need to speak. It's Jessica and Derek Bailey. Jessica Grant.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the next question also, Lauren Davey, will the project eliminate the existing island with palm trees on the south side of the overpass?
Where are you actually, can you describe where you were talking about again, if you don't mind?
It's the area along Cabrillo Boulevard where we currently probably have the row of palm trees.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lauren Davey.
So is the question back to the trees, is the question is where are we going to lose some palm trees, etc., on the north side, just prior to the bridge?
No, on the other side, right now there's a island, kind of a big island, where it's grassy and there's some palm trees in the island. Before you get to where the roundabout's going to be, there's a big island there, and traffic that intends to go up Los Patos goes on the right side of the island, and the traffic that wants to go straight or turn left stays on the left side of the island. Do you know?
I believe that island has been eliminated, and then, but I mean, we can go back and double check on that, but I do believe that was portion of part of the widening for the entrance into Channel Drive.
Maybe I can. So Lori, from what I'm understanding that you're describing, it's the island where you separate to the right and go into the alternate entry to Santa Barbara Cemetery, where you continue with through traffic. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that island is preserved, but the through traffic to the right will have a street that enters at the second gate to the Santa Barbara Cemetery. The old street, the old piece of Channel Drive that goes from the gate, from the back entrance to the cemetery up to Channel Drive proper, will be filled in and will become the multi-use path.
And the trees will stay as well.
The trees will stay. Care was taken. One of the things, actually, rather than open trench in some areas there's going to be horizontal drilling so that the trees aren't interfered with.
Could you
So
put up
that whole, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wondered if you could put up the other illustration that shows a little more of that area. I think you're saying you're going to include that island into, so it's no longer an island. It's connected.
Yeah, and actually probably some of the backup slides too. Oh yeah, you can somewhat see it there. Yeah.
The island will be it will no longer, it's still there, but it's no longer an island. It will be just connected with.
It'll be a larger landscaped area adjacent to through multi-use path.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think I understand. Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. And then the next question is from Tracy Wolfong. I don't see the bike lanes in the roundabout. Do bikes need to merge with cars in the roundabout?
Yes. As you come up Cabrillo Boulevard or any of the legs, as you approach the intersection, you'd have to take the roundabout lane with vehicles, either go around, depending on which leg of the intersection you need to exit from, but you do take the lane. If you choose to not take the lane, there will be the multi-use path, which can be taken as an alternate route. And there are crosswalks at each leg of the intersection that'll give the cyclist the ability to go around the same area.
Okay. And the next question here is, again, from Lori and Davey. Please, I think we've already taken care of this one, but I'll go ahead and read it. Please put back up some of the illustrations previously shown while you were answering questions. I know we've gone back and forth, and let me know if there's something that we need to go back to, but I believe that was taken care of already. You can always raise your hand again if we need to go back to something. The next question from Linda Jones: will there be a consistent landscape maintenance in order to keep it low to avoid a block sightline from any point in the roundabout?
Yes, there'll be a landscape plant establishment period followed by a landscape maintenance period with the construction contract. And then after that is up, we are working on establishing a contract that will maintain the landscaped areas within the project site or footprint.
Okay. And the next question comes from Seth. And I believe this one may have been answered as well. Wondering if the lion fountain is being moved at all. My understanding was that Cabrillo roadway would shift considerably, but this doesn't look like any major change to the path of travel. I believe that one was answered already, but.
Yeah, we'll reiterate that this fountain will remain in place with actually an area to be able to access it and see it. And then there won't be an additional shift to Cabrillo.
And Laura, just so that you know, Jessica Grant and the rest of the team, they can answer. We'll just go ahead and call on them
Okay,
if you need to. The next question comes from Heather. Have you reviewed it's PROWAG, and does this design comply?
Sorry, can you restate the question?
Sure, and I'll just have you reviewed, and I'll just go ahead and spell it out. PROWAG, PROWAG.
Oh, PROWAG, yes.
And
yeah. Go ahead. I'll finish the question.
Yeah, no, she was asking if it.
Yes. All ADA access ramps and sidewalks will meet both PROWAG ADA standards.
Okay. And a follow-up question also from Heather. On the northeast corner, crossing Cabrillo, if someone is in a wheelchair, is waiting to cross the street, will they be blocking, or to what extent will they be blocking the multi-use path?
That is a great question. I don't know the exact width of that proposed multi-use path, but
it's 12 feet, Laura.
What's that?
It's 12 feet.
Okay, so 12 feet wide, therefore enabling a wheelchair and a cyclist to be side by side through the multi-use path and at the access ramp.
Okay. And our next question is from Seth. Do we know when phase 2 will commence?
We are currently working on final design and seeking funding through various grant programs in order to fund phase 2. So we don't have an exact date, but actively seeking funding for phase 2.
Okay. And our next question comes from Mimi. Can we get email updates on the construction like we do with the freeway construction?
Yes, that's a great question. And we'll describe the various forms in which you can access our website, get on the email list, but we do plan to issue periodic updates as we move through the different phases of construction and key milestones. So yeah, definitely looking to keep our residents informed and engaged and welcome comments and feedback. So yes, we will be issuing those.
Great. Tracy Wolfong has another question. Actually, she has a request. Would like to see the new underpass. So if we can go back to that slide. And Tracy, I'm not sure if you had a question or you just wanted to see the slide, but please feel free to raise your hand or drop a follow-up question here. And
I
we
will
can-
point out, oh, go ahead, Claudia.
No, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I will point out that on the left-hand side, we currently show a sloped embankment that'll actually be a vertical wall, similar to what's on the other side.
And our next question is from Heather. If you are a cyclist using the multi-use path around the roundabout, the turns and space for cyclists to use the crosswalk looks sharp and short. What turn radius was used for the design? And what is the length of the waiting area?
Do you have that offhand, James?
Not offhand.
I don't know the, go ahead.
Yeah, go. Yeah, not off the hand, Laura. Sorry, we can look at it up and be able to answer it as well.
Yes,
So
we can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can follow up and provide that response. I believe we should have your email contact if you registered with that. Is that correct, Rosie?
Yes, if it was through Eventbrite, I'll have that, but I'm looking it up now as we speak.
And if not, Heather, you can feel free to email the project email with that question, and we can have the city staff or project team follow up with you. And that information, just for everybody, information will be provided at the end of the presentation. Laura will provide how to contact the team.
Yeah, just send us an email and we'll get a response for you.
Yeah, want to make sure we respond properly and not take a wild guess.
Right.
And to confirm, I do have Heather's email.
Okay. A follow-up email, a follow-up question again from Heather. Public right-of-way accessibility guidelines. Seems more of a statement.
Yeah, that's what PROAG stands for. Yeah. Yeah, we're familiar with the recent changes and the path towards adoption.
And Lori and Davey, what kind of vegetation is represented by the areas in the illustration that are shown as solid green in the islands? So what type of vegetation is proposed in those areas?
I believe we have drought tolerant plants that require minimal maintenance. So native drought tolerant plants.
In this case, aloe. I checked
Yeah, agave. Yeah.
And it looks like our last question that I'm seeing here is from Dr. Miller, is what will be the very first part of this project to start? So phase one.
Phase one will, like I said, will be the roundabout. Probably the first item or order of work will be starting with the utility relocations, which we have pretty significant relocations as part of this project in order to make the utilities more accessible post-construction. So keeping them within the roadway versus through the center of the roundabout. So that will be the first order of work through one of Granite's subcontractors that we've worked with many times and very familiar with this type of work.
Thank you. I guess what I'm really trying to get at is, as a frequent user of the current, what do you call it, multi-use pathway, or the bike pathy around Cabrillo and Los Patos, I'm wondering how severely and when could we expect to be affected and have that area off use, if that will happen?
We're still waiting to get the exact contractor schedule, but I anticipate that area won't be heavily impacted for quite some time, given that most of the utility work will happen within the existing roadway. So we will, and they do have to maintain pedestrian and access for cyclists through the duration of the project. So I don't anticipate that being unavailable
And those Patos at no point will be inaccessible.
Correct. It'll always be accessible, or always be accessible. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I don't see any additional hands up, and we've gone through our questions in the Q&A chat feature. And so just want to one last time give an opportunity for anyone who might have a question to raise their hand, and we can call on you. Just want to double check before I move on. Okay, I don't see any additional hands up. And like I said, we've answered the questions that we've received so far. So thank you very much to everyone. And so this concludes our Q&A session. Laura, we'll go ahead and now provide information on how to stay informed and close out the meeting. Laura?
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. So yes, thank you for your participation. We appreciate everyone giving us a little bit of your time tonight, and encourage you to stay connected by subscribing to our email list. You can access that via the project website, which is found at the bottom of the screen. You can take a snapshot of our QR code, which will also get you to our city site, or email us to our project specific email, which our design and construction team will now monitor and make sure we get all of your questions answered. I'll point out again that we do have the same meeting, but in person on November 8th at the Palm Park Beach House. It just changed its name. 5:30 p.m. So we also welcome you all to attend if you have any additional questions, and you'll be able to meet some of our project team in person as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you once again to everyone for taking the time for joining us to receive this information. And we look forward to, if you're planning to attend the November 8th meeting, to see you there in person. And again, we welcome any additional comments, questions that you may possibly think of following this meeting and in between the next meeting, to have those emailed and sent over to the project specific website address and email that Laura has shared with you, and that's on the screen here today. Again, thank you so much, and we hope that you have a good rest of your evening.